Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is a morning update. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Jeffrey Berman firing today, and the fact that the legacy media has decided to leave out the fact that Jeffrey Berman was also investigating Jeffrey Epstein. Every article you read, all they talk about is Lev Parnas and Rudy Giuliani, as if those are the only investigations in the whole world that matters. And to them it is, because remember, it's all about scoring political points against your opponent. They don't care about these survivors. It's the same thing that I talked about with Julie K. Brown. Look, her work was great. What ended up happening was fantastic. But the fact of the matter is, her motivation from where I'm sitting was all about Trump. And it can't just all be about Trump all the time. Why do people let this man live in their head rent-free? It is unbelievable. Trump is a symptom of a much bigger problem here, folks. This case, what we're talking about, spans 4 administrations. 4! And never mind all of the legacy media members that have been around for that time who have been complicit. But there is a lot more wrong with the world than just Trump. And if we only focus on just Trump, then the rest of this shit will get by us. And the legacy media is doing the survivors a huge disservice here. A huge disservice. And it's embarrassing, honestly, for them. Is it too hard just to mention the fact that Berman was also investigating Jeffrey Epstein? Do you have to just continuously beat us over the head with your tribalism, with your political infighting? It's beyond the pale at this point, and it is so detrimental to not only the nation, but it is detrimental to the case that we're talking about right now. There is no reason why the legacy media should not be focusing on the fact that Berman was also investigating Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and Alan Dershowitz. I had a source reach out to me overnight that is a pretty reliable source, a source that I've dealt with in the past, who has said to me personally that there are criminal files opened on multiple enablers in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Multiple enablers is what this person said to me. Now, I can't trace it myself and fact check it, because obviously the government keeps things close to the vest, right? But according to this source, there are case files, criminal case files open on multiple players in the Jeffrey Epstein criminal organization. Now, you don't think that's worthy of talking about? You don't think that the legacy media should talk about that? Now, if the legacy media wants to take the approach of, did Trump get rid of Berman to protect people in the Epstein case? I can get down with that, right? That's something that we would have to investigate. That's something that definitely should be talked about. But what I take umbrage with and what I'm agitated about is the whole entire conversation is about Rudy Giuliani and Lev Parnas at this point, and we're still beating the dead Ukraine horse. When, if this source is accurate, there are multiple files opened on big-time players in this Jeffrey Epstein case, in a child sex trafficking case. You mean to tell me that the Giuliani money funneling scheme that they're alleging is more important than what Jeffrey Epstein was up to? I'm sorry, I do not believe it. I do not believe it. And the fact that the legacy media continues to ignore the survivors, they continue to ignore the fact that the SDNY was investigating this case, and they continue to ignore the fact that we're onto them. And they just keep on going with their gaslighting, with their propaganda. And folks, I'm tired of it. And I'm going to call it out wherever it happens. I don't care if it comes from the left, the right, wherever it happens, I'm going to call it out. Because it's an absolute joke. The fact that Jeffrey Berman is no longer investigating these crimes and you have his deputy, Audrey Strauss, stepping in to do it, well, that's fine and well. And when you have something like the Justice Department, when all things are correct and we can trust what's going on, it doesn't matter who the prosecutor is, right? They're interchangeable. You could bring in one prosecutor, get rid of another prosecutor, and everybody in the office who is working on the case still knows the deal. They still have all of their ducks in a row. That's how it usually happens, right? When things are working correctly. But under the current environment, under the past few administrations, including this one, it's been an absolute shit show at the Justice Department. They act like they're above the law. They act like they can do whatever it is that they want. So I don't have any confidence that the investigation is ongoing. Who knows what's going on over there at the SDNY right now? And from where I'm sitting, if it was me, I would want this case kicked out of the SDNY and kicked elsewhere, because this is a joke right now. It's an absolute train wreck at the SDNY. And honestly, everybody has some fault here. The whole entire Justice Department, Berman's whole office, all of them. None of them are good guys, right? Berman's not some martyr. He's not somebody that should be cried about because he's getting fired. And there is no legal basis for anyone to even complain as far as the law goes. These people serve at the president's discretion. It doesn't matter who the president is, and we can disagree with that, whatever you want. But the fact of the matter is, that's how this works. So the Democrats, with all of their grandstanding again and their investigations, it's going to be a waste of time and money. Why don't you put that money, Mr. Nadler and the rest of them, why don't you put that money into bringing people in front of you and getting them under oath in the Jeffrey Epstein case? That's where I want my tax dollars spent, not on more of your fishing expeditions. If you guys were serious about going after Trump, you would have went after his financials from the very beginning. Because you know what? There is no way on this planet that you can be involved in construction on the East Coast and not have your money tied up with mob money at some point. Point blank, period. Every single construction job in New York, those high-profile jobs, have a taint of the mafia still to this day. But instead, they grandstanded. Instead, they went a whole different direction. And, like usual, the Jeffrey Epstein case and the survivors were ignored. All in the name of tribalism. All right, so our article is from The Hill today, and this article was authored by Neal Stanage. The headline, The Memo, Storm Brewing After Chaotic Berman Firing. And now, folks, I want you to pay very close attention to what we're talking about in this article and notice what we're missing. Shock over the Trump administration's firing of a top government prosecutor is reverberating across the political world. But not even the president's foes are confident he will face consequences. Yeah, no shit, he can't face consequences. Just stop. Holy cow, is it too hard for you people to just stop and do your job? How about write a couple of laws? The nation is falling down around our ears, and nobody has stepped up to be a leader. Nobody on the left or on the right. And you people are going to call more hearings about a prosecutor being fired, huh? It's unbelievable to me. It is absolutely unbelievable to me. Legal experts, especially those critical of what they see as President Trump's erosion of the independence of the justice system, are appalled at the firing of Jeffrey Berman in contentious circumstances. Look, again, folks, this is such BS. This is such red meat for the base. This is tribalism at its best. Every single Department of Justice that we've had in the last 4 administrations has been criminal. But now the spotlight is on because they feel like they can score some political points. I mean, don't get me wrong, better late than never to call out these scumbags at the Justice Department, but you're not fooling me with your motivations here. You're not going to paint the picture that you're a good guy. You're not going to paint the picture that you're not all gray characters because, folks, that is what these people all are. Sure, they're capable of good, but all of them are capable of great evil, and we see it on a daily basis with their decisions, with the laws they write, and with the way they conduct themselves. Berman was spearheading a number of investigations that touched on the president and his circle in his role as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. If the president fired Berman in order to forestall or prevent an ongoing investigation, then it is absolutely clear that that fits the definition of obstruction of justice, and it is a crime, said Claire Finkelstein, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania Law School and the director of its Center for Ethics and Rule of Law. Didn't you guys try this already? Wasn't this all the same playbook used after Comey was fired? And didn't it just fizzle out and blow up in your face? How many times are you going to use the same strategy and end up with the same result before you realize that you're part of the problem? Referring to Berman, Finkelstein added, he was obviously the linchpin for a lot of important investigations. That's just such BS. The linchpin, he's the face of the office, okay? And Berman is not this great prosecutor. We're not talking about, old school Rudy Giuliani before he became a knucklehead. No, we're talking about Jeffrey Berman, the guy that's bumbling around in the Jeffrey Epstein case, pointing at the poster board, talking about, if anyone has any information about this man, please come forward. Meanwhile, Maria Farmer gave you a whole dossier. Annie gave you a whole dossier. The whole entire first case was there for you. All of the evidence was there for you. But you have the audacity to get up there and point at Jeffrey Epstein on a piece of poster board and ask for help building the case? You should have got fired for that, Berman. Now, listen to this right here, folks, okay? Among the matters currently under investigation by the SDNY is whether the president's attorney, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, violated laws on lobbying for foreign interests in relation to Ukraine. Ooh, big laws were broke here, folks. It's almost like he was involved in a child sex trafficking ring or something. I mean, are you kidding me right now? And again, I'm not saying that Giuliani shouldn't be investigated. He should be, right? If he did something wrong, he was in the wrong. If he was taking dark money from other countries, acting as an agent, whatever it may be, he should be investigated and, if found guilty, prosecuted to the furthest extent of the law. This is a nation of laws, okay? Equal justice for all. But at the same time, I don't know how anybody who is not being biased, who is not living in their own echo chamber, can sit there and say they're okay with this, sit there and say that they're comfortable with the fact that all of a sudden Jeffrey Epstein in the case is no longer being mentioned. I am not comfortable with it. I will not let them get away with it, and I will call out the tribalism on either side. I don't care. I truly do not care anymore about the sides or who gets mad or who is offended. Because guess what, folks? Sometimes hard truths need to happen. Kind of like when Tony Soprano sat down with Jackie Aprile Jr. and had the talk. Now listen, I'm going to say a few things that you might not like, and I'm going to say some bad words, but you're just going to have to listen. And that's how I feel at this point, because we can't let petty tribalism get in the way, because this is the result. This is what happens when the highest institutions in the nation and in the world are busy playing politics. Stuff like this is going to slip through the cracks, and the legacy media, who is supposed to be holding these people accountable, is busy frothing at the mouth, looking for their piece of meat as well. F you and F your stupid ass tribalistic politics. To many observers, the ouster of Berman brought to mind the firing of FBI Director James Comey in May 2017. The push against Comey led to the appointment of special counsel Robert Mueller and put a cloud of suspicion over Trump that lasted roughly 2 years and was never conclusively dispelled. No, that's incorrect. Okay? And I'm sorry that a lot of people don't want to hear it. The whole Russia thing was nonsense. Nonsense. When you look at it clinically, and you look at it with a cold shoulder, where you don't care one way or the other where the results lead you, it is a fact that Russia was bull. And the Democrats wasted an incredible amount of political capital chasing that down. For them to act like the whole entire Russia thing was legit and has legs, it's mind-boggling to me. And what we see is when people buy into that still, what they're doing is they're feeding their confirmation bias. And I know a lot of people don't want to hear it, but it's a fact. All right, what do you think? Only people on the right use a confirmation bias or live in an echo chamber? I got news for you folks. It's very prevalent on the left as well. On Saturday, Barr sent Berman a letter saying that Trump had officially fired him. The same day, Trump told reporters that he was not involved in the decision. Trump and Barr, it's like the Keystone Cops over there. Well, Trump said I could fire him. Well, I have nothing to do with it. You said I could fire him. Who's on first? Well, who's on second? What are you guys doing? Get it together. I have zero faith in Bill Barr. Zero faith in this man to do the right thing. The guy's been lurking around the swamp forever. And it's a good idea for the man who's running around talking about, I'm going to drain the swamp, going to bring in another swamp creature? Yeah, because that's going to do the job. That's what we need to have happen up in D.C. On Monday, the White House sought to put further distance between Trump and the firing. Of course they did. Just like they wanted to put distance between him and Jeffrey Epstein, huh? They love to do this. They love that. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, whatever the hell her name is, told reporters at a briefing that the president had been involved only in a sign-off capacity. So what they're trying to do is build a little bit of plausible deniability here for Trump in case this explodes in his face. But everybody who's paying attention, or anyone who knows anything about the country, knows that the president can fire a prosecutor, and of course we know that he signed off on this. So why in the hell would the White House try and distance themselves from it? Oh, I'll tell you why. Because it's an absolute screw-up, okay? The whole entire thing is a disaster. Not because they can't do it legally, but because it's a disaster, okay? It's bad politics. It's bad for the public image, and it is certainly bad for all of the cases being worked on in the SDNY right now, because it creates havoc, and people are now focused on other things instead of their job. This should have been done after Trump was reelected, if he got reelected. They could have lived with Berman for another 5 months. So what I'm saying is, I don't know the motivation here, right? And it could have something to do with Giuliani, no doubt about it. My point is, all of a sudden, we're no longer talking about Jeffrey Epstein in regards to Berman. We're no longer bringing it up in these articles. We're no longer yelling from the rooftops about some justice. Now, all of a sudden, once again, it's about Giuliani, Lev Parnas, and Trump again. Let's get refocused, folks. Let's get refocused. The Attorney General was taking the lead on this matter. He did come to the president and report to him when Mr. Berman decided not to leave. And at that point is when the president agreed with the Attorney General. I don't buy that. I don't buy that Barr did this in a vacuum. He didn't talk with Trump. That Trump had no idea about this. Sorry, I do not buy it. In fact, there's not much that Barr can do that I'll buy at this point without concrete evidence. Because the man has established himself as somebody who can't be trusted. The man has established himself throughout the years as a swamp creature. And all of a sudden, this is the man that I'm supposed to trust? Just supposed to trust everything he says? No confirmation? Well, Bill Barr saw the video. Everything must be fine. Sorry. I wouldn't believe Eric Holder, and I certainly don't believe Bill Barr. Further complicating the political dynamics for Trump, no compelling rationale for the firing of Berman has been given. In addition, An effort to replace him with Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Jay Clayton appears to have run aground, at least for now. Well, that's one good thing coming out of this. I didn't want Jay Clayton anywhere near this office. The guy's never been a prosecutor. The guy has ties to Deutsche Bank. The guy has ties to Wall Street. And where are all these scoundrels from, folks? Well, Wall Street, isn't it? So-called polite society. Clayton would need to be approved by the Senate, but Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham, usually a staunch Trump ally, has indicated he will not fight a de facto veto that Clayton's home state senators can use against him. The senators in question are both New York Democrats, Senate Minority Leader Charles Schumer and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. Both have called on Clayton to withdraw his name from consideration for the post. And out of one side of their mouth, the Democrats complain about Republicans playing politics, and then they do the same thing right here. And as far as Kirsten Gillibrand is concerned, she has ties to Nexium. We'll touch on that at some point, but that lady should shut her fat yap. Berman's interim replacement will be his former deputy, Audrey Strauss, a well-respected career prosecutor. That means somebody who's part of the so-called resistance or whatever it is they're calling themselves nowadays, who virtually no one expects to take the SDNY's foot off the gas in relations to any ongoing investigations. Well, that's her job, right? Her job is to make sure that the investigations continue. My question is, should we have any confidence in that at all? Caroline Pelosi, a criminal defense attorney and a partner at Armstrong Teasdale, described the idea of appointing Clayton, who has never been a federal prosecutor, as absolutely ridiculous. 100% agree with that. I don't know what sort of mushrooms the Trump administration were eating when they were having that discussion. Maybe Attorney General Barr ate a couple of buttons of peyote before he walked into Donald Trump's office for this conversation. But just because someone is your friend doesn't make them qualified to be a prosecutor, okay? Especially at the SDNY. Pelosi described the latest episode as shocking, but asserted that it was part of a pattern of behavior from the Trump administration. It just keeps happening, and each time it happens, we all say we can't believe that happened. And it just happens again, she said. Well, the reason it keeps happening is because they're towing the line. It is not illegal what they're doing, but it's bad politics. And it gives their opponents an in, and their opponents a reason to write posts, to write articles like this, and to find critics to come out of the woodwork to hammer them. And again, just because something is legal does not mean that they should do it. I am certainly not a fan of Clayton becoming the new prosecutor, as you're all well aware, but I am also not a fan of the Democrats' meat-handed tactics here, the way they try to ride in and white knight everybody like they're the good guys in this story. No, you're not the good guys in this story. Okay? Point blank, period. And anybody who's running around talking about, well, the Democrats are going to take down Jeffrey Epstein, you're wrong. You're wrong. Okay? Everybody in this story is a gray character. The key question for many Trump critics is whether the president or Barr will face any adverse consequences as a result of Berman's ouster. Folks, this will be a big mistake. If the Democrats go down this road, what they're doing is opening the door for every single time one of these kind of people has to get fired for there to be a big political fight in Congress. Because that's exactly what we need to do, right? We'll have another big political fight over something as stupid as this. There's nothing else going on in the country, right? There's not 40 million unemployed people. There's not people in Nevada who over 100 days have not received any PUA insurance help, right? Nah, no big deal. Forget those people. We got a political bone to settle. I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler told CNN State of the Union on Sunday that any attempt to impeach Barr would be a waste of time, even though he suggested the Attorney General deserved that fate. It is a waste of time, and a waste of resources, and a waste of the capital that you have. How about you show this much emotion and everybody is this fired up from the reason that Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators are still running the streets? Don't you think that should elicit this kind of anger? Nah, of course it doesn't, though. You know why? And here's a a banger for you, a quotable for you. I'll tell you why. Because just like Nancy Pelosi's daughter said, their faves are caught up in it. Legal experts are more focused on whether any ongoing investigations will be constrained or abandoned, or whether Barr or Trump could in short order move to dismiss Strauss as well. Like this Strauss is some kind of hero. They're setting her up to be a martyr as well. She was involved in the SDNY for all of these years, folks. Remember all of this. Before you start feeling bad for any of these prosecutors, remember, this is the team that has been involved in the Jeffrey Epstein case for all of these years. And so far, we only have 2 indictments, and that is 2 lowly prison guards. Remember that before you feel bad for anybody at the SDNY. The SDNY has been long known for its independence, and the fact that Manhattan falls within its jurisdiction raises the dangers for Trump, since that is where his businesses have long been headquartered. Yeah, didn't Jeffrey Epstein have his businesses in New York too? Wasn't he hobnobbing with all of you people too? Oh, yeah, that's right. Let's not talk about that though. Let's sweep that under the rug and we'll just play politics. The stakes are higher because at this point, Barr has pretty much tamed the entire department except for the SDNY, said Harry Litman, a former U.S. attorney for the Western District of Pennsylvania. Because they are in Manhattan, there seem to be 5, 6, 8 investigations into Trump that they are undertaking. Yeah, none of that rings of politicalization, right? None of that has to do with their own confirmation bias and their own echo chamber and the fact that they will do anything, even if it means forgetting other major important things going on in the country, if they can ouster their political opponent. Bro, you got 5 months, all right? And if everything that all these people are talking about is true, you'll be rid of Trump in 5 months. So why would anyone want to kick into gear another stupid-ass, dumb investigation right now? Especially when so much progress is being made in the Epstein case. Don't these people understand that if they pursue the Epstein case and they bring down all of the co-conspirators, they can have their cake and eat it too, because a lot of the people that they hate are wrapped up with Epstein. A lot of the people that their so-called opponents are wrapped up with Epstein, and they could bring them down as well. But you know why they don't do it, folks? Why they're not pursuing this avenue? Because they themselves are also wrapped up with Epstein. Just like I've been telling you since August. Meanwhile, however, other Trump foes cast their minds back to Trump's survival of the Comey firing and all the other allegations investigated by Mueller. They lament that the president feels unshackled as a result. Richard Painter, a law professor at the University of Minnesota and a former Republican who is now a Trump critic, complained, Trump got away with it, and he's doing it again. The memo is a reported column by Neal Stanage, primarily focused on Donald Trump's presidency. So, the whole article, folks, not one mention of Jeffrey Epstein or the Jeffrey Epstein case. Now that's 2 articles that I've read on air to show you what I'm talking about. So next time you think it's just Fox News who's involved in this sort of bullshit, chickadee check yourself, take a look in the mirror, and realize that the buffet of confirmation bias has many, many people enjoying its wares. Many people stuffing their face. And it goes on and on and on. This whole Berman situation is an absolute shit show. The Trump administration is a dumpster fire right now. The Democrats, a 4-alarm forest fire. And meanwhile, the taxpayers, the citizens, and most importantly of all, the survivors, still get no justice. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. Inside of the description box, you will find a link to the article, and you will also find a link to the GoFundMe if you would like to help the podcast. All right, everybody, we'll be back later on, and we'll do it all over again.